The sun. He shrugged and asked me to shave. I became homeless when I said no. One day I had sex with Melania Trump. When I got deported, I laughed. Broke a guitar when I wrote a song about it. Felt alone, but that was okay. One day I danced at an open mic. You laughed, and that made me laugh. I don't think you remember that day, but I do. One day I felt okay. One day I didn't. One day I woke up on time. One day I crashed late. I've got a really lame riddle for you, and if you solve it before the end of this talk, I'll buy you coffee or something. I'm a second-year undergraduate at RIT. I'm creating my own major out of music, film, writing, video game design, and software engineering. I'm the lead drummer for the RIT Jazz Ensemble. I produce music as Altona Meadows and release it under my own record label, The Reading Room. I have major depressive disorder. I've got metal in my left ankle. I take a small black coffee with 40 milligrams of Vibrate every day. I get drunk at parties and smoke a cigarette every other day. I have sex with girls without learning their last names. I keep a Snapchat streak with my brother, and I wear my watch backwards because I think I look dope. So who am I? I've been struggling with this question for years, and that's not something I say lightly because I hate the word struggle. It has too many G's in it. It rhymes with puddle. It reminds me of strudel, and I hate strudel. I often hear the statement, I struggle with depression, but I honestly don't know what that means. I can tell you what my experience with depression has been like. Some days, I skip all my classes because the blanket around me won't shut up about my fears and my responsibilities. Some days I skip lunch because my stomach keeps calling me fat. Some days I cry when no one's looking because I'm afraid that nobody's looking at me. But other days I write a song and guitar about Tinder or God or both. Some days I hug my mom and I feel something. Some days I say a knock-knock joke that makes a friend die of laughter. So that's me. I don't think that's struggling. I think it's existing. I think it's living like owning a puppy or a cat or Webkins. I started therapy about 5 years ago. I remember crying in the backseat of my mom's car because I couldn't even drive at the time. She was going on about my grades, a B- in English, a B+ in math. And I looked around, and I realized I didn't have anybody to turn to. I was bullied in school and didn't have many friends. I was too shy to approach any adults or teachers. My parents looked at me as more of a report card than a person. So with a high-pitched whistle, I whispered, I want to try therapy. I met with a woman named Dr. Vanessa for a few years. We spoke about everything: love, loss, expectations, meditation, college applications, all of that. Therapists came and went, from Vanessa to Berger to Kathleen to Lachlan. I never learned any of their full names, and I don't think they remember mine. I was put on Prozac to help my mind, then Cymbalta to help the side effects, then hydroxyzine to help my insomnia, then clonazepam because hydroxyzine sounds stupid, then swapped to Vibrate. And the crazy thing is that I think I'm forgetting some of those too. The medication helped. I became more confident and told more abrasive jokes. I watched more Ryan Gosling movies. But there were some downsides. Some days I felt as if I was acting without realizing it, as if the car had switched to cruise control. I vomited a lot, and I couldn't eat solid foods for a little while. And once I started eating, I ate and put on about 50 pounds in the span of a year. I grew 3 waist sizes. I had sexual dysfunction before I even lost my virginity. When you have depression, it's as if your mind doesn't believe what it sees around you. And that's terrifying because it begs the question, what about your memories? For me, I remember lots of highs and lows. I remember my father spitting as he chased me around the kitchen table, his face stuck with shame, dread, disgust, and his hand up! I remember that same man trying to get my family to move closer and closer together, priming the Nikon camera down from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. He always looks really funny when he runs. I remember holding hands with my ex-girlfriend at the local movie theaters, throwing popcorn at Daniel Radcliffe, her head getting closer and closer to mine. I remember that same girl calling me from a bus, bragging about how she cheated on me with another man, and how his dick felt different from mine. So what do I trust? And why do I trust it? College came around. I was a mess to say the least. I cried in my top bunk bed a lot. I called my mom way too many times. That adjustment is a lot, and it heavily affected me. I found myself at random parties, being handed random drinks, talking to random strangers, just looking for anybody that would listen to me. One thing that helped me during this time was creating. I started carrying a little journal around in my pocket, scribbling little insights like poems about Melania Trump or all sorts of crazy, dumb things.
I haven't had a good conversation.
I picked up a guitar and taught myself a few chords.
Regular conversations.
And I even started performing at open mics, playing my own songs, singing a little too. One thing that's crazy is that I actually snuck into the RIT music room at 4 a.m. multiple times, just moving keyboards and vibraphones and drums around, and just playing. This was how I escaped, connecting with other artists and storytellers. I grew passionate and obsessed with creativity and new ideas. While skipping my class one day to eat earlier, I found a flyer for the School of Individualized Studies here at RIT. I drafted some resumes, emailed some professors and counselors, and before you knew it, I had designed my own major called creative storytelling. The idea is that I study various forms of media, from music to film to writing to all of that stuff, and I learned to tell better stories through it. Sounds crazy, sounds like a lot of fun, but it's actually really challenging.
It's too late.
Creating your major means picking classes from an entire university. It means relying on your communication rather than your transcript when looking for a job. It also means your Tinder bio is going to look abysmal. One thing it also means is that your parents are going to yell a little bit, at least in the beginning. My parents are Indian, and they were born in Chennai. They had to pick a major at the age of 15. And here I am, relying on more creativity than grades. It was scary for them. But eventually, I earned my freedom, and I started taking classes. And now I'm able to do everything I'm passionate about. 1 second, composing for a student film. The next, writing a story. It's crazy and incredible, yet terrifying. Part of me honestly doesn't know where I'm going to end up in a few years. But I know that if I don't do what I love, I'm not going to love myself. And regardless of a degree, I'm more concerned with loving myself than anything in the world. Have you guys ever longboarded, by the way? That's a really weird question, but I couldn't think of a better way to get into this paragraph. Last year, I got on a longboard for the first time during a film project. I was trying to get this shot of these 3 guys running. I jumped off after going way too fast, and I shattered my left ankle in 2. I called my mom from the ambulance, and she wouldn't stop calling and texting me for the next week or month. In the end, I was on crutches for 6 months. I remember dragging a plastic bag across my left ankle, standing on one leg as I gripped any surface I could with my fingernails. It turns out the injury was a lot worse than anticipated, and eventually a surgeon had to put a small metal plate and 4 screws into my body, something that's going to stay with me for the rest of my life, but at least I can dance again. During this time, I went to an open mic. I performed a new song and everybody loved it. I hobbled back to my chair with my crutches. And the girl with a ukulele slumped up to the mic. She had purple hair. She sang this song, vocals like Amy Winehouse, and I was absolutely hooked. It sounded incredible to me. But nobody else could hear her. There was a roar around the room. For some reason, everyone was talking at this time, and I was really upset. Here was this girl sharing something special, and nobody cared. Nobody could care.
If you interview him, you can only refer to him.
There had to be something that I could do. I had to do something. And so I did. I emailed 10 old friends, Googled LLCs, ISRCs, and marketing, and started my own record label called The Reading Room. I released a 5-song EP where I performed drums, guitar, vibraphones, keyboard, even sang, all while on crutches, and released it for free. And after that, we grew. We connected to more old friends, made some new ones overseas, and grew. I Skype artists directly, teaching them Ableton, even singing backup vocals for a few of them. We've grown to a team of almost 20 people, web developers, musicians, managers, and weirdos to create a family. Running a record label is hard work, just like any startup. But it's not so crazy. When I tell people that I own a record label, their eyes kind of bug out. But I honestly don't understand why. I don't get why more people don't do things like this. People often assume that life is planned out for them, you know. You're born, you go to school, you start a family, you get a job, and then you die. I don't get why people don't question that more often. What if a diploma doesn't guarantee a job? What if that job makes you unhappy? What is it about money that makes it so appealing? My mom thinks I'm crazy for thinking this. But I'm more concerned with love than anything else in the world. Money is important, but creativity and love is imperative. But why? Why did I start a record label while unable to stand up? Why did I give up on a steady major to create my own? Why do I take on responsibility after responsibility helping other people? I don't know. But I do know this. I wouldn't have done any of it if I didn't have depression. I wouldn't have started a record label had I not been bullied in high school. I wouldn't have started my own major had my father not screamed in my face and threatened me. I wouldn't have done this talk had I not cut myself at 3 a.m. in high school, washing the blood down the kitchen sink. These scars, these lines, these ladder rungs, these Crayola drag marks, these cocaine train tracks push me every single day. They get me out of bed in the morning. They raise my hand when I raised in class. They touch my girlfriend's cheek when I kiss her. They're me. I'm not telling you to cut yourself. I'm not telling you that your experience with mental illness is or isn't bad. I'm not trying to belittle you or your story. I'm not trying to make you feel sad or bad or anything at all. I'm just sharing my story because I can. And if you've got a story too, I want to hear it. It's scary. It's not easy for me to come up here and tell you all of these things that I've never told anybody else. I've lost friends and ended relationships because of some of this stuff. People look at me weirdly afterwards. They check up on me more often and consider it community service. They create things like trigger warnings, as if they're responsible for my emotions and my feelings. This isn't me saying I want more suicide awareness groups or anything like that. I just want my mom to look at me like I'm normal. And for everybody to treat me like a regular 19-year-old kid. Like I'm Brandon Dcruz and that's it. Depression isn't easy. But it's not a heavy snowfall or endless rain or a desert that you can't get out of or sand everywhere or a ticking G-Shock watch or a voice in your head or someone screaming at you in the morning or you. It's none of that bullshit. Depression is just me. It's a kid who likes music and coffee and Stanley Kubrick movies. It's a kid who loves his brother and his mom and his dad. It's a kid who loves holding hands with his girlfriend. And most importantly, it's a kid who loves to dance, even though he's terrible at it. Like this. Thank you, everybody.